I felt a pang of anxiety as I realized I was alone and isolated on this highway. I wished I had taken a different route, or at least stopped at a motel for the night. But it was too late to turn back now. I had to keep driving until I reached my destination. Suddenly, I saw a flash of lightning in the sky, followed by a loud thunder. The rain started to pour down heavily, making it hard to see the road. I slowed down and turned on the windshield wipers, hoping to improve my visibility. I noticed that the highway was curving to the right, and there was a sign that said, "Bridge ahead." I approached the bridge, hoping to cross it quickly and safely, but as I got closer, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a car parked on the other side of the bridge, blocking the way. It looked like an old and rusty sedan with broken windows and flat tires. There was no sign of the driver or any passengers. I wondered what was going on. Was this a trap? A prank? A coincidence? I felt a surge of fear and curiosity. I decided to stop my car and check it out. Maybe there was someone in need of help, or maybe there was a logical explanation for this situation. I parked my car a few meters away from the bridge and got out. I grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment and walked towards the bridge. As I reached the bridge, I saw that it was made of wood and metal and looked very old and unstable. It creaked and groaned under my weight as if it was about to collapse. I shone my flashlight on the car, hoping to see some clues or details. But what I saw next made me scream in horror. There was a body in the driver's seat, covered in blood and wounds. It looked like a man, but I couldn't tell for sure. His face was mutilated beyond recognition, and his eyes were wide open and staring at me. He was holding a knife in his right hand and a note in his left hand. The note said, "Welcome to the Bridge of Death. You are the next victim. There is no escape. He is coming for you." I felt a chill run down my spine and a sense of dread fill my chest. Who was he? Who wrote this note? Who killed this man? And why? I wanted to run away, to get back to my car and drive away from this nightmare. But before I could move, I heard a loud and sinister laugh behind me. I turned around and saw a figure standing at the other end of the bridge. He was wearing a black hooded cloak and holding a large axe. He had a twisted smile on his face and a gleam in his eyes. He said, "Hello, Rajesh. I've been waiting for you. I'm glad you decided to stop by. You see, I've been killing people on this highway for a long time, and you are my latest target. You have no idea how much fun this is, how much pleasure I get from watching you suffer, how much satisfaction I get from ending your life. You are about to find out. You are about to join the others. You are about to die." He raised his axe and started to walk towards me. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. I knew this was the end. I knew I was going to die. I wished I had never taken this road. I wished I had never seen this bridge. I wished I had never met this killer. I wished I had never been born. But then, something unexpected happened. I heard a loud siren behind me and saw flashing lights. It was a police car coming to my rescue. The killer stopped in his tracks and looked at the car with shock and anger. He realized he had been caught. He realized he had to run. He turned around and ran to the other side of the bridge. He jumped into his car and tried to start it, but it was too late. The police car had reached the bridge and blocked his way. The police officer got out of the car and pointed his gun at the killer. He shouted, "Freeze! Drop your weapon! You are under arrest!" The killer ignored him and tried to ram his car into the police car. But the police officer was faster and shot him in the chest. The killer's car crashed into the police car and exploded. The killer was dead. I felt a wave of relief and a surge of gratitude. I had survived. I had been saved. I looked at the police officer and saw that he was smiling. He walked towards me and said, "Are you okay? I'm glad I got here in time. I've been tracking this guy for months. He's been killing people on this highway for a long time, and you are his latest target. But not anymore. You are safe now." He reached out his hand and helped me up. He hugged me and said, "You are very lucky. You are the first survivor of the Bridge of Death. You are the one who stopped him. You are a hero." I smiled and thanked him. I felt a sense of joy and a sense of hope. I had survived. I had been saved. I had stopped the killer. I had escaped the bridge of death. I was alive. I was driving home from a Christmas party, feeling tired and sleepy. The snow was falling heavily, and the road was dark and slippery. I turned on the radio to keep myself awake, but the only station I could find was playing some creepy music and a distorted voice that sounded like a warning. I ignored it and focused on the road, hoping to reach my destination soon. I saw a sign that said, "Welcome to Silent Hill," and I felt a chill run down my spine. I had never heard of that town before, and it looked deserted and eerie. I decided to drive through it as fast as I could and find the nearest exit. As I drove, I noticed that the snow was turning red and the buildings were covered in blood and gore. I saw mutilated bodies hanging from the windows and twisted creatures roaming the streets. I heard screams and moans of pain and terror, and the radio voice became louder and more menacing. I panicked and tried to turn around, but the road behind me was blocked by a huge metal gate. I was trapped in this hellish nightmare, and I had no idea how to escape. I drove faster, hoping to find a way out, but the town seemed endless and labyrinthine. I came across a bridge that looked like it led to the other side of the town. I crossed it, hoping to find salvation, but as soon as I reached the end, the bridge collapsed, and my car plunged into the icy water below. I felt the cold water fill my lungs and the darkness engulf me. I realized that this was the end, and I had no chance of survival. The last thing I heard was the radio voice, laughing maniacally and saying, "Welcome to Silent Hill, where your worst nightmares come true. Merry Christmas and have a nice death." I woke up in a hospital bed, feeling confused and disoriented. I had no memory of what had happened or how I got there. I looked around and saw that the hospital was empty and dilapidated. The walls were stained with rust and mold, and the equipment was broken and outdated. The only sound was the faint beeping of the heart monitor and the occasional drip of water. I tried to get up, but I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I looked down and saw that I had a large wound on my left side and a metal rod sticking out of it. I gasped and felt a surge of fear and panic. How did this happen? Was I in an accident? Where was I? I reached for the call button, hoping to get some help, but nothing happened. I realized that the hospital was abandoned, and I was alone. I wondered if anyone knew I was here, or if anyone was looking for me. I felt a wave of despair and hopelessness. I decided to try to find a way out of this place and get some answers. I pulled the metal rod out of my wound and felt a gush of blood. I ignored the pain and wrapped a bandage around it. I grabbed a pair of scissors from a nearby table and used it as a weapon. I got out of the bed and walked towards the door. As I opened the door, I was greeted by a horrific sight. The hallway was filled with blood and corpses, and the air was thick with smoke and ash. I saw creatures that looked like zombies and monsters, and they were coming towards me. I heard the radio voice again saying, "You can't escape from Silent Hill. You can only suffer. This is your punishment for your sins. You will never leave this place alive." I ran for my life, dodging and fighting the creatures as I went. I looked for an exit, but every door was locked or blocked. I felt like I was in a maze and there was no way out. I wondered what I had done to deserve this, and what this place was. I wondered if this was real, or if I was dreaming. I stumbled upon a room that looked like a chapel, and I entered it. I saw a large cross on the wall, and a woman kneeling in front of it. She was wearing a white dress and had long blonde hair. She looked like an angel, and I felt a sense of relief and hope. Maybe she could help me, or at least tell me what was going on. I approached her and called out to her. She turned around and I saw her face. It was the face of my ex-wife, the woman I had killed in a fit of rage. She looked at me with a mix of hatred and pity and said, "Hello, darling. I've been waiting for you. Welcome to Silent Hill, where your worst nightmares come true. Merry Christmas, and have a nice death." I was driving home from a late shift at the hospital, feeling exhausted and sleepy. I had to take a detour because of a road closure, and I found myself on a dark and unfamiliar road. The only light came from my headlights, which barely pierced the thick fog. The road was winding and bumpy, and I had to slow down to avoid hitting any potholes or animals. I turned on the radio to keep myself awake, but all I could get was static and some faint music. I tried to find a station that had some news or talk show, but nothing came in clearly. I felt like I was driving in a bubble, cut off from the rest of the world. I checked my phone, hoping to see a message from my wife or a friend, but there was no signal. I sighed and put it back in the cup holder. I wondered how long it would take me to get home, and if anyone would notice if I didn't make it. Suddenly, I saw something in the rearview mirror. It looked like a pair of headlights following me closely. I was surprised because I hadn't seen any other cars on the road for a long time. I wondered who it was and why they were driving so fast. I sped up a little, hoping to create some distance between us, but the other car matched my speed. I slowed down, thinking maybe they wanted to pass me, but they didn't. They stayed right behind me, tailgating me dangerously. I felt a surge of fear and anger. Who was this jerk, and what did they want? Were they trying to scare me, or rob me, or worse? I decided to confront them and pulled over to the side of the road. I grabbed my phone, hoping to call for help, but it was still dead. I got out of the car and walked towards the other car, which had also stopped. I couldn't see the driver because the windows were tinted. I shouted, "Hey, what's your problem? Why are you following me?" There was no answer. I walked closer and knocked on the window. "Hey, I'm talking to you. Come out and face me, you coward." Still no answer. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something was wrong. I reached for the door handle and pulled it. The door opened and I screamed. There was no one inside. The car was empty, except for a note on the dashboard. It read, "Gotcha." I heard a loud bang and felt a sharp pain in my chest. I looked down and saw blood gushing from a bullet wound. I fell to the ground, gasping for air. I heard a laugh and saw a figure emerge from the bushes. He was wearing a mask and a hood. He had a gun in his hand. He was smiling. He said, "Happy New Year. You're next." He walked towards me slowly, aiming his gun at my head. He looked like he was in no hurry. He knew I had nowhere to run. I screamed for help, but no one heard me. I was alone. I was doomed. I was his victim. I was driving home from a New Year's Eve party with my girlfriend. We had a great time celebrating with our friends, and we were looking forward to spending the night together. We decided to take a shortcut through a forest road that was supposed to save us some time, but it turned out to be a big mistake. The road was dark and bumpy, with no streetlights or signs. The trees were blocking the moonlight and the stars. It felt like we were driving into a black hole. We had no idea where we were going or how long it would take. We tried to make the best of it. We turned on the radio and sang along to some songs. We joked about the creepy road and the possibility of encountering a ghost or a monster. We kissed and cuddled in the car. We tried to ignore the feeling of uneasiness that was growing in our stomachs, but we couldn't ignore the sound. It was a loud, piercing scream. It sounded like a woman in pain. It came from somewhere behind us. It made us jump in our seats. We looked at each other in shock. We wondered what it was and who it was. We wondered if we should stop and help or keep driving. We wondered if it was a prank or a trap. We decided to keep driving. We thought it was too risky to stop. We thought it might be a trap set by some psychos or robbers. We thought it might be a prank played by some kids or drunkards. We thought it was none of our business. We thought we were safe, but we were wrong. The scream followed us. It got louder and louder. It got closer and closer. It sounded like it was coming from the trunk of our car. We panicked. We realized we had picked up a hitchhiker who was not alive, a hitchhiker who was not human. We stopped the car and got out. We ran to the back and opened the trunk. We expected to see a corpse or a creature. We expected to see blood or guts. We expected to see horror. But we saw nothing. The trunk was empty. There was no sign of anyone or anything. There was no explanation for the scream. We were confused. We wondered if we had imagined it. We wondered if we had gone crazy. We wondered if it was a joke or a glitch. We decided to get back in the car and drive away. We thought it was over. But it was not. The scream started again. It was louder and angrier than before. It was coming from the front of the car. It was coming from the dashboard. We screamed too. We realized we had a passenger who was not visible, a passenger who was not friendly. We tried to get out of the car and run away, but it was too late. The doors were locked. The windows were sealed. The engine was revving. We were trapped. We heard a voice from the radio. It was a deep, raspy voice. It said, "Happy New Year. You're mine." It laughed maniacally. It sounded like it was enjoying our fear. It drove the car off the road. It drove the car into a tree. It drove the car into hell. We were doomed. We were his victims.